Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Monday review time, albeit at a slightly later time than normal. Such is the nature of the fixtures over the bank holiday weekend. We have two games to reflect on. First will be the 1-0 victory at Priestfield against Doncaster Rovers on Good Friday, before looking back at this afternoon's defeat that came quite late on. That worldie at Sixfield saw us lose by 2-1 against Northampton Town, and with it, the chance of an unbeaten Easter period. But first and foremost, we will rewind all the way back to Good Friday, 2 p.m, team news. I should just say that you've probably noticed, unfortunately, there is no Reese from German Gills for this episode. He is having a busy family weekend over in Germany, so is otherwise engaged. So you have to put up with my dulcet tones for the next period of time. I don't know how long it'll be. But team news on Good Friday saw one change from the defeat at Barrow the previous weekend. Ollie Hawkins was restored to the side at the expense of Tristan Abraham. So the team in full for Neil Harris was Glenn Morris in goal, a back four of Shay Alexander, Max Ehmer, Connor Masterson and Robbie McKenzie, a midfield quartet of Alex McDonald, Timmy Dieng, Captain Sean Williams and Aidan O'Brien, and a front pairing of Ollie Hawkins and Tom Nichols. Dom Jeffries was fit for the bench after injury the previous week. And yeah, we started all right, didn't we? First half, we got on the front foot really quickly. We pushed Doncaster back. We know they like to play. We know that their keeper has been woefully out of form in recent weeks. And we got into good areas. And there was a really big chance early on, wasn't there? First minute or so, corner from Alex McDonald. Tom Nichols done what he's done really well ever since arriving in January. And that was just peel off at the back post. It's a free header. And he knows he should do better. He heads it over the bar into the Brian Moore stand, and Doncaster escaped early on. After that, though, the game became bitty and fragmented, and Doncaster tried to slow it down as the away team, which you can understand. There was two fairly lengthy stoppages, wasn't there? Connor Marston unfortunately took a whack to the face. He went down, he got treatment, he got patched up, he had to change his shirt. He was running around with something that he looked like he bought out of the club shop, no name or number on the back, but unfortunately he couldn't continue. He sat down for a second time and had to be replaced by Will Wright shortly before half time. Just after that though, Gills took the lead, didn't they? It was a Robbie McKenzie throwing from the left-hand side. Ollie Hawkins does what he does so well, that's win the first contact. Tom Nichols does what Tom Nichols does so well. He peeled off at the back post again. The defender switched off. Technically, it's a really good volley on his left foot. Jonathan Mitchell got absolutely no chance in the Doncaster goal. And Gills led at the break. And that was essentially it for the first period. It wasn't a game that was ever going to be first on the highlights show. It's not something that you'd show to the footballing purists, those that like tippy-tappy football. It was two honest, hard-working League Two teams. But very little quality. But the main thing was that we'd got ourselves in front. The second period followed pretty much the same pattern as the first, in my opinion. We got out of the blocks really quickly. Again, we played the game in their half, in their third. We won free kicks, we won corners, we won throw-ins. We perhaps didn't capitalise on them as much as we'd obviously have wanted to, but we was playing the game in the right areas. It wasn't a pretty watch. It wasn't free-flowing football. But yeah, like I say, we were playing on the front foot. We were the team that looked like we was trying to make things to happen. And Doncaster weren't causing us a problem defensively. I said on the match preview show, were Doncaster the first team essentially on the beach this season and ready for their summer holidays? There was certainly nothing in their performance that suggested different. We know they were shorn of their top scorer, George Miller, out injured, so unavailable. They had the likes of Carl Hurst and veteran Kieran Agard on the bench, but Agard is that now. He's in the veteran stage of his career at 33, 34. So an impact player now rather than someone that you can rely on to start games. But yeah, the game again just drifted and there was nothing happening. And I remember saying to Boz and Stocky on the Match Day Live that we needed to make some changes, I thought, just to freshen things up and get the crowd going, in essence. And them changes did come. Aidan O'Brien and Alex McDonald, for us, were on the periphery of the game for the large part of it. So they were both withdrawn, and it was George Lapsley and the returning Dom Jeffries that came on. And I thought Dom was very good in getting us up the pitch again. He plays that left side role very well. Certainly better than anyone else at the moment, I think. But the trouble is, like anyone that plays out there, they're naturally right-footed, so they tend to step into trouble and don't hold their shape as much. So that'll be something to look at moving forward. But yeah, I thought Dom was very good. Lapsley was neat and tidy with it. And it just got us going again. And yeah, we created a couple of bits without anything being clear-cut. I think there was a ball to the far post and Tom Nichols peeled off his man and sort of hooked it over his shoulder and it landed on the top of the net in front of the Raynham end. Jules Lapsley nearly got in a couple of times. Mitchell made a couple of smothering saves. Again, that was pretty much it. Rovers had a couple of sniffs in the final few minutes. Kieran Agard managed to escape down our left-back area and smashed a shot wide. And then Hurst blazed one across goal, I think it was, in the final minute of injury time. But at no stage did I feel that Gills were under the cosh. It just wasn't a very nice game to watch. Did we deserve it? Based on territory, possession, bits and pieces created, probably just. I know first half, ironically, we had all the ball and they probably had two of the clearer cut chances. Glenn Morris made a good save with his right hand. You'd expect a keeper of his calibre to make. And then they had a header that was recycled after a set piece and Robbie McKenzie managed to head it up onto the bar and out. But second period, they offered absolutely nothing apart from them two half chances at best that I've alluded to. So yeah, certainly not one for the classic matches section of any YouTube channel or anything like that. But it was a big clean sheet and it was a big 3 points. Just going to concentrate solely on the Gills today rather than our opposition. So I'm going to go through the match ratings of myself and Boz for Friday's fixture. Glenn Morris, solid 7, made that save that you'd expect him to make first half. Came and commanded his box, claimed crosses, distribution was spot on, he was loud, talks, gets his back four up, doesn't he, when he needs to. Just another really good performance from our goalkeeper. In terms of the back four, both fullbacks were in contention to be man of the match. We gave Shay Alexander and Robbie McKenzie a 7.5 each. Centrally, Max Ehmer, solid enough, 7. Connor Masterson only a 6.5, unfortunately didn't last more than 40 minutes before having to go off with that injury. Midfield quartet, thought the middle two were really good. Tim Dieng, Sean Williams in tandem, 7s each. You know, weren't man of the match contenders for me, but certainly were solid and effective as that midfield pairing, shielding the back four when they had to. And then Timmy predominantly was the one that tried to get on and support the front two when he could. So yeah, 7s for the pair of them. Like I've already mentioned, thought Alex McDonald and Aidan O'Brien were both on the periphery of the game. Couple of decent set plays from Alex McDonald, but not much from Aidan O'Brien. So we gave them both 6.5. And then the front pair of Hawkins and Nichols, we gave Ollie a 7. Again, got very little support from the official. He's being double marked pretty much all the time. Even for the goal, he's got 2 round him, doesn't he? He manages to get in the middle of them and flick the header to the back post. Tom Nichols started off slowly. I think he was offside a couple of times, which was getting a bit frustrating. You're just willing him to look along the line. But he got better and better as the game went on. Probably thought his performance was 7.5, like Robbie McKenzie and Shay Alexander. But with the goal, we bumped him up to an 8. He's busy, he was energetic again, wasn't he? You just know what you're going to get with Nico, and he got a rapturous applause from the Raynham end and the Gordon Road stand and the Medway stand when he eventually got round there, when he came off with a minute to play, having exited via the Gordon Road stand. In terms of the substitutes as well, though, Will Wright come on, we thought he was solid enough considering he's not played loads recently. We gave him a 7, he had a couple of airy moments, but generally was solid. George Lapsley, 6.5. Dom Jeffries a 7, thought of the attack-minded changes, he was the better. Then Lewis Page came on and Tristan Abrahams to see the game out. Lewis Page's debut, no time for a rating, so not applicable for them too. In terms of the Gills man of the match, you've probably already worked out who our contenders were based on what the match ratings were. We ended up plumphing for Tom Nichols as the match winner. The man that earned us the 3 points. Like I say, honourable mentions to both Robbie McKenzie and Shay Alexander, who I thought were very, very impressive at fullback. Did their defensive duty. I think Shay's the one that is able to get on a bit more because Robbie's playing technically on the wrong side, so he essentially steps back into traffic onto his favoured foot all the time. Defensively though, nothing wrong at all. But like I say, Shea got on, galloping fullback, second half, got a couple of good balls into the box. On another day, could have had an assist. But yeah, Nico, man of the match, busy, energetic, like I've already said. It's an absolute nuisance to play against. You'd hate to play against him as a centre-half or a fullback. Never, ever stops running, never, ever gives you a moment's peace. Technically, the finish is absolutely superb. Certainly out of keeping with the game as a whole. 89 minutes played for Tom. Like we said, 1 winner, 2 shots on target, 73% pass completion, 1 key pass. A good day at the office for the man who is now our top scorer with 5. So that is that for Doncaster. A well-earned 3 points, albeit not the greatest watch. Now on to today's game at the Sixfields against John Brady's promotion-chasing Northampton Town. We've spoken about progress since January on various episodes, whether that's on a Match Day Live, Monday review shows like this, or match previews with opposition fans. January was always going to be about getting enough quality in and getting enough points to get us out of trouble. As we've moved through the last 3 months to this current point, we've gone from beating teams in and around us, keeping clean sheets against teams in and around us, the likes of Hartlepool, Colchester, Harrogate, Crawley, Rochdale. We then started being able to see offsides that were sort of mid-table, your Wimbledons, your Grimsbys, your Tranmere Rovers. The next step was then, were we able to go and beat a team in the top portion of the table? We did that at home to Carlisle. We were the better side throughout, albeit having to rely on a 94th minute winner. The next step then is can we go away to a side in the top portion of the table? So Northampton away represented an opportunity. Team news came in at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and 3 changes from Good Friday. Not sure if that was as many as I expected or less than I expected, I won't lie. It was Connor Masterson out, assumed concussion. It was Aidan O'Brien and Alex McDonald out. And it was recalls for Will Wright, Dom Jeffries and George Lapsley. So it was a flat 4-4-2 again. Glenn Morris, Shea Alexander, Will Wright, Max Ehmer, Robbie McKenzie, Lapsley, Dieng, Williams and Jeffries in the middle. And then again, the same front pairing of Ollie Hawkins and Tom Nichols. Lewis Page was on the bench again. David Tatonda returned to the 18 as we had the full quota of 7 substitutes, with youngster Tate Holtham, the backup keeper, being the homegrown player. It's an even game, I thought, for 20, 25 minutes. The wind was playing a part. It was blustery. You could see that. There was a couple of times players from each side went to control balls and it just drifted away on the breeze, and it sort of went out of play, or they had a poor touch. And I think Peter Lloyd said on the Radio Kent commentary that teams were having 1 touch each and it was just going back to the other side. And it was fragmented. Attritional is probably a good word to describe it. But then credit our hosts, they stepped on the gas from about 25 minutes onwards. They pinned us back. I think there was an early drive, wasn't there, from Ethan Pinnock that never troubled Glenn Morris. But then Robbie McKenzie, on about the half-hour mark, had to make a really good block. Initially, I thought we got the wrong side, and he sort of slipped, from my view, watching on iFollow. But he does really well to sort of stretch out a leg as the shot comes in and block it, which means that Glenn Morris doesn't have to get called into action. Then a few minutes later, frustratingly, we concede, don't we? There's question marks on social media. Can Robbie McKenzie stop the cross at source? Potentially. Can Will Wright do better when the ball comes into our box? Absolutely. For me, as a centre-half, either head it out for a corner, head it out for a throw. Don't head it down into your penalty box. It's a smart finish from Apire. Glenn Morris got absolutely no chance. It nestles in the bottom corner in front of our supporters. But yeah, just bits that we could frustratingly tighten up on. And from that point, we looked like we needed half-time. Like I say, they were pinning us back. They were enjoying all the possession. We had a couple of nearly moments, didn't we, throughout the half. Tom Nichols performed 1 brilliant pirouette on the halfway line about 10 minutes previously, but just couldn't sort his feet out in the box after Ollie Hawkins had done well to lay it into his path. If he had, he'd have probably had a shot at goal from about 8 yards, middle of the area. But unfortunately, the chance passed him by. And then similar, George Lapsley got into a decent area and couldn't sort his feet out, and that chance went begging as well. Yeah, half-time was certainly needed. Would we make changes? We made just 1 initially. That was Dom Jeffries, who'd been largely ineffective. He was withdrawn for Lewis Page. So it was the first time we was going to see a proper look at the former West Ham and Coventry player. And it was a change of system. We went to a back three, so Robbie McKenzie dropped in alongside Max Ehmer and Will Wright. Lewis Page was operating as a left wing back and Shea Alexander from the other side, and it meant that we got Gills Lapsley into his natural role, which was as a 10, and you're thinking, right, can we get him into little pockets of space in between the lines? Can he affect the game more than he's certainly done in recent weeks, albeit from a position that is a little bit alien to him? The answer was no, unfortunately, for Gills Lapsley. The game passed him by again, whether that was conditions or how we were playing, because we were going direct. But he just never got his foot on the ball in dangerous areas for me. There was a triple change, wasn't there? So credit Neil Harris. I've not written this down, so I've got to try and remember the changes. I think it was Aidan O'Brien, Alex McDonald and Ethan Coleman all came on. So Aidan O'Brien came on for Lapsley, and we sort of played 2 10s, him and Nico, off of Ollie Hawkins. Ethan Coleman was a straight swap for Tim Dieng in the middle of the park, and Macca was a straight swap initially for Shea Alexander. Instant impact from Aidan O'Brien, wasn't it? And there's a clip in behind or towards their penalty area. Northampton, for some reason, allow it to bounce. Tom Nichols is aware. He's certainly more alert than the centre half, and he nips him in front of him and manages to head it away from goal. But Ollie Hawkins, I'm not sure whether it's a scuff shot or it's a cross, because Lee Burge, the keeper's come out and ends up in a little bit of no man's land. But we're going to give Hawkins credit, saying he gets his head up, fizzes one across the box. And Aidan O'Brien, it's literally his first touch, slides in at the back post, right in front of, I don't know, 700, 800 Gillingham fans. 1-1 from out of absolutely nowhere. We'd started the half all right. We'd got a couple of throw-ins in dangerous areas, but then it had calmed down again, and Northampton were controlling the pace of the game. It was something to build on. Like I said, credit Neil Harris. He made brave changes. He switched the system up to match Northampton, to try and pin them back and play the game in their half, which we were doing. There was a moment after the equaliser. David Norman, I think it was, got a yellow card, went right through the back of Tom Nichols. So I'm going to put this to YouTube, to social media. Was yellow the correct decision, or was it a red card? I don't like VAR. Absolutely hate it. Has no place in the game for me. It's not improved it at all. But if VAR was to look at that decision again, would Darren Drysdale, the referee, perhaps have been told to go and look at a screen and upgrade it to a red? It was late. He went right through the back of Nichols. It was high and it looked two-footed. It was like that scissor kick motion where he's wrapped both of his legs round. The good thing is he's got Nico round the calf rather than on his ankle joint, because then he could have caused a real problem. But let me know what you think. Northampton fans will probably say yellow was plenty. Gills fans might say it looked like it should have been a straight red card. Northampton took the lead, didn't they? Unfortunately, with about 8 minutes to play. Again, you can pick holes in us, probably more so than the first one. But you have to say that Will Hondermark, excellent surname by the way, it's a phenomenal hit. It'll be in any goal of the month, any goal of the season competition, not just for Northampton Town, but for the entire division. 25 yards out, he gets his head up just off central, and he arrows an absolute howitzer into the top corner in front of the Northampton fans behind the goal. It's a brilliant, brilliant strike. As a neutral, it deserves to win any football match. As a Gills fan, it's highly frustrating having seen us battle to get back on level terms against a good side. Could we then go again and try and find a second equaliser? 5 minutes of injury time gave us the chance. Sort of perks you up, doesn't it? And we got that chance literally in the last minute of the 5 minutes of injury time, and it was a needless foul, I think, on Tom Nichols, and it was Alex McDonald on set piece duty. It's great delivery, out swinging into a dangerous area. Tom Nichols just gets off of his man, glancing header goes no more than a foot wide. It's the fine lines at the moment, isn't it? Unfortunately, if we take a point, it's a very good result. It's potentially that next step. It's not winning, but it's going toe-to-toe with a promotion-chasing side again, but it wasn't to be. The final whistle went shortly after, and we'd been defeated by 2-1. In terms of player ratings for the afternoon, I think you'll see from what I give the starting 11 and what I give the substitutes, it tells you at what point we became not a dominant force, but where we had our period on the front foot at least. Glenn Morris didn't have a lot to do, gave him a 7. Made a good stop first half from a header from a corner. Again, distribution, kicking, command of his box, I thought was absolutely fine. Back four, Shea Alexander 7. Didn't think he did a lot wrong. I didn't think the danger came down his side at all. And I think his withdrawal was only just to get more attack-minded players on the pitch. It was another solid outing from Shea. Centre-backs, I thought, struggled at times. Max Ehmer was probably the better of the two, albeit he got spun a couple of times by Sam Hoskins and others trying to get touch tight. I gave him a 6.5. Will Wright, I thought, struggled all afternoon. In a pair, a couple of times he just looked like he's not played loads of football recently. He didn't look comfortable on the left-hand side of a back three when we switched to shape second period. Twice, 3 times, he nearly had me having kittens by overplaying, stepping into trouble and nearly losing possession. Gave him a 5.5. Wasn't Will's best day at the office. Robbie McKenzie, we gave a 6. Couldn't head anything properly first half. It just kept bouncing off the side of his head, going out of play. Like I say, I know the wind wasn't great, but it was the same for both teams. He improved second period. George Lapsley, a 5. Didn't get into the game again, either as a wide midfielder or in a 10, albeit for a short period of time, second half. We're just, for some reason, just not getting the best out of George at the moment. And we know that Neil alluded to wanting different systems and styles of play for next season, and that will come through the summer and pre-season, and hopefully we can find a way to get the best out of George Lapsley, but at the moment we're not seeing it at all. Tim Dieng just looked off the pace all afternoon again for me, 5.5. Sean Williams, a 6. Organiser, talking, captain, but not one of his better games, certainly not as good as he's been over recent weeks. Dom Jeffries, ineffective as well. Could have been him or Lapsley hooked at half-time. It just happened to be Dom. We gave him a 5.5. I think he had a couple of moments early on in the game where he threatened to get away down the left-hand side. Front two, 6.5 each. Battled hard. Didn't have loads of chances. Didn't get a lot of help from the referee either. But that's by the by. We say that every week. Fans of every club in League Two probably say the same every week. Substitutions. Lewis Page came on at half-time. I thought he was very solid. Considering he's not played for ages, thought he stuck to his task really well. Didn't see much of him in an attacking sense until late in the game or when we'd equalised. But I thought he was defensively very good. We know he's a class act if we can keep him fit. I gave him a 7. Ethan Coleman, I thought, added some legs and some bite to the middle of the park, 6.5. Definite yellow, the one he got for going straight through the back of the Northampton midfielder late on in the game. Alex McDonald, slightly out of position as a wing-back, but worked as hard as ever. Inches away from an assist in injury time, isn't he, if Tom Nichols' header drifts inside rather than outside the far post. Aidan O'Brien scored with his first touch, nearly made another goal all on his own, flicked it over a couple of defenders, then sort of bustled his way through another, and his left-footed drive went just wide of the post before, unfortunately, it looked like picked up an injury. He was just I think he eventually did go off after we'd made all our substitutions in injury time. So I think the commentary team said something about a calf problem. So fingers crossed that's not too long term. Tristan Abrahams was chucked on for the last couple of minutes to try and salvage a point. Not applicable again, unfortunately. On to man of the match for the Gills. I'm going to go for a player that only played for 28 minutes, and that was substitute Aidan O'Brien. Just gave us that dynamism and thrust in the final third when he arrived. And like you say, as a manager, you can't hope for more when you make a change. And the bloke scores with his first touch. Both of his goals have come off the bench this season. Today and the winner against Crewe a couple of weeks ago in front of the Rainham end. Hugely positive impact, like I've already said. He nearly makes another goal all by himself. Technically, he's very good. His feet are very quick. He looks equally comfortable left or right foot. He's almost like a player that's in between what Ollie Hawkins and Tom Nichols do for me. He can run in behind more than Hawkins, but he can play with his back to goal. His link play's decent. Like I say, technically, he's very good. Yeah, so for me, probably deserved to not be on the losing side. 28 minutes played. 1 shot on target, 1 shot off target. The equaliser that we hoped at the time would equal us coming home with a point. 100% of his aerial duels when he was on before, sadly being struck down by that injury problem. But yeah, for me, man of the match, Aidan O'Brien. One player I want to talk about before I finish up this episode is a man that today played his 350th game for the club. I'm talking about our German centre-back Max Ehmer. Max originally arrived on loan during the 2014-15 season under Peter Taylor. I think he made his debut in what was then a Johnston's Paint Trophy game against Leyton Orient that we won 1-0. Since then, 350 appearances have yielded 16 goals, 14 assists. There's been 111 wins in that time and 87 clean sheets. During his time in Kent, which was made permanent in the summer of 2015, he was signed by the late Justin Edinburgh. He has gone on to play for no fewer than 6 permanent managers. The already mentioned Peter Taylor and Justin Edinburgh, Adrian Pennock, Steve Lovell, Steve Evans and now Neil Harris. I think that says a lot about how highly regarded Max Ehmer is. I know he has his critics and his detractors, and I understand that. He's a League Two and a League One footballer. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to have poor games. If he didn't, he'd be playing Championship or Premier League. But I think for a player to have made 350 club appearances in the modern era is phenomenal in itself. And you certainly have to have some degree of ability to have played that many times for one club under so many different managers, because quite frankly, them 6 that I've mentioned know a lot more about the game of football than I do talking about it on YouTube or any of us do talking on social media. His highest finish with the club since arriving was 9th in League One in 2015-16. Of course, he suffered the relegation from that very division last spring. But let's hope that he can put things right moving into 23-24. He is out of contract at the end of the season, but let's hope he does get another deal, because I think he's been absolutely superb on the whole. Certainly since the takeover, and I think he was probably one of our better players even before then. Defensively was never an issue in the first half of the season, was it? It was our lack of threat in the final third. I've seen some tweets courtesy of Hayden Parry today, and I will give him credit. I'm not going to pretend I've researched this. He's the 14th player in club history, just the 14th. If you think the amount of people that have gone through this club over the last 130 years or so, just the 14th to have made it to 350 appearances. That is a phenomenal effort by any stretch of the imagination. If he does get a new deal and he plays 30 games next season, he will move into the top 10 of all-time appearance makers. That 10th position is currently held by none other than Nicky Southall with 379. And he also holds the record for the most games for Gillingham Football Club in the 21st century, and is 115 clear of Chris Hope, who was in second place with 235. So from me, Max, thank you for the last 350 appearances. Let's hope there's a few more. Let's hope that maybe there's some sort of promotion push next season. Like I say, you don't play that many games for one football team without having ability. You clearly have that. I've spoken to him on social media. I was lucky to interview him a few years ago. He's a top bloke as well as a top professional. Yeah, like I say, I tip my hat to Max Ehmer, who went past 350 club appearances today. Right, that is it for this week's Monday review. Unfortunately, we were close, weren't we? It wasn't quite an unbeaten Easter period, but 3 points from 6 gets us to 47. And with games being ticked off and other teams below us dropping points today, I think only Colchester below us won. It means that those trying to chase us down are running out of time. We'll be absolutely fine. I've got no doubt about it. We have a tough run of fixtures. Today was the start of it. Our next 3, Stockport, Leyton Orient and Bradford, all chasing the title and or playoffs and or automatic promotion. Final home game will be Newport County before we travel to playoff chasing Salford on the final day of the season. Don't forget, these videos are all in association with Art of Football, so all your retro and vintage needs can be catered for, whether it's hats, t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, classic football shirts, prints, frames, you name it, they probably do it. Thanks for watching as always. Thanks for listening. Please keep liking, subscribing, retweeting and doing all that you do. We're trying to push on towards 2,500 subscribers. If we can get there by the end of the season, I might do a giveaway. You never know. As always, thanks for watching. We will see you soon. Up the Gills.